The heart of the forest, where the trees whispered secrets to the wind and shadows danced under the moonlight, a desperate sound broke the stillness, a cry so haunting it could stir even the coldest heart. A tiny wolf cub, no more than 4 days old, let out a trembling howl. Its voice carried sorrow, confusion, and fear, cutting through the silence like a blade. It was calling, pleading for a mother who would never return. In the middle of a dense, dark forest, the tiny cub sat alone, its frail body trembling against the cold earth. The forest, once a sanctuary, had now become a realm of danger and despair. The moonlight barely touched the cub, its soft fur illuminated just enough to reveal the heartbreaking sight. It had been abandoned. No one knows why its mother left. Perhaps she fell victim to a predator or was forced to flee, unable to return. But for the little cub, none of this mattered. What mattered was the aching loneliness in its tiny heart and the gnawing hunger that clawed at its stomach. The cub's cries grew weaker as the hours passed. Its eyes, once filled with hope, began to dim. Without food, warmth, or protection, the night seemed destined to be its last. But fate had other plans. Just when the cub was nearing despair, a man appeared. He was walking through the forest, perhaps lost in thought, when he heard it, the faint, desperate cry. He stopped, his heart quickening. In the stillness, he strained to locate the sound. What he found made his breath catch. There, under the shadow of a tree, was the tiniest wolf he had ever seen. Its body was so frail it looked like a whisper of life, clinging to existence by a thread. Its wide eyes stared at him, full of fear and longing. The man knelt down, his hands trembling. He hesitated for a moment, knowing the wild instincts of wolves. But when the cub let out a weak, pitiful cry, his resolve hardened. He couldn't leave it there. Carefully, he scooped up the tiny creature, cradling it against his chest. The cub was cold, so cold, and he could feel its tiny heart beating faintly. He wrapped it in his coat and hurried home, determined to save its life. At home, the man prepared a warm bath. He gently cleaned the cub, washing away the dirt and the fear. The tiny wolf, too weak to resist, let itself be cared for. Its soft fur, once matted and dull, began to fluff up as the man dried it with a warm towel. Next came the food. The man brought out a bowl of warm, nourishing soup. The cub hesitated, its wild instincts still lingering, but hunger quickly overcame fear. It devoured the meal, its tiny body trembling with each bite. As it ate, tears welled in its eyes, as if remembering the hardships it had endured. The man watched, his own heart aching, and made a silent promise. You'll never have to face that pain again. From that day on, the cub became part of the man's family. They named it Luna, after the moonlight that first revealed it. Luna quickly grew stronger, her wild instincts giving way to a playful, loving nature. She followed the man everywhere, her tiny paws pattering after him like a shadow. At night, she would curl up beside him, gently nibbling his hand, a gesture of trust and affection. The bond between them grew unbreakable. The family showered Luna with love, treating her like one of their own. She would howl humorously, making everyone laugh. Her favorite meals were always shared with a touch of ceremony, and her appetite became legendary. As Luna grew, she transformed from a fragile cub into a majestic wolf. Her coat shimmered in the sunlight, and her eyes glowed with a wild beauty. Yet, despite her strength, she remained the same loving soul who had once cried out in the forest. To strangers, Luna was fierce and protective, a true guardian of her family. But at home, she was a gentle, loyal companion, always ready to offer her unwavering love. The man often thought back to that night in the forest. What if he hadn't stopped? What if he had ignored the cry? The thought sent a shiver through him. That single moment of compassion had not only saved a life, but had brought immeasurable joy into his own. And so Luna's story became a testament, a reminder of the power of love and the difference one act of kindness can make. The world is full of opportunities to make a difference, to answer a cry for help, even if it's faint.